Hi everyone, a very good evening to all of you and welcoming you to one of our webinar series again with I Dream Career. So first and foremost, before we start, as always, a formal welcome and thank you to everybody who has joined us today. First and foremost, all the eminent principals, school teachers and counselors from various parts of the world who are here to take out their 60-90 minutes and participate in this webinar. Also to our ever encouraging career counselor community, the trained and certified counselors via iDream Career, and lastly all the children who have been here with us during this quarantine period and the corona period, and gaining some great insights through all the webinars that we have been doing and gaining knowledge through these sessions. So thank you everybody. And for everybody who is absolutely new to this webinar, uh, we are here from iDream Career. So just a small little introduction to all of you to let you know what iDream Career is all about. So we are a career counseling organization working for almost 10 years in helping students making informed career decisions. We work with a lot of private schools, we work with a lot of NGOs and CSRs, and we also run our own certification and training program to help individuals in becoming certified career counselors who can eventually either practice on their own or also get an opportunity to freelance with IDC. To name a few associations we have, we work with Samhita Academy, which is based out of Bangalore. We work with Orchid International School based out of Bombay. We work with Navy Children's School, which is based out of 6 places within India: Goa, Port Blair, Vizag, etc. We work with the Sindhya School, the Sri Ram School, and many such more names. In terms of the organizations, we have been working with the DS Group, we had been working with the Hero Group, Bharti Foundation, HCL Foundation, and many other few names as well. So on that note, let us please start with the webinar directly. So before we jump into the webinar and I give the onus to the speaker, just a few little words of who our speaker for here today is. So Dr. Siva Sankari, she comes from USA. So she in fact is in USA right now. So first and foremost, thank you Shiva for actually taking out your time from the US and sparing these 60-90 minutes with us for iDream Career and the students here. For everybody else, so Shiva has been absolutely in the biotechnology field since beginning. She's done her bachelor's from VIT, which is at Vellore, and then she moved on to doing her master's from Anna University at Chennai, and then Doctor of Philosophy again in biochemistry from the University of New York. Post that, post all these educations that she has been doing, there have been a lot of experiences attached with respect to she she teaching, or maybe being there as a doctorate. So she started as a project assistant in 2007 at Anna University again, and then she moved on to becoming a graduate assistant from 2011 at the University of Buffalo, and then she has been working at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology since May 2016 till present. Uh, Trust me, if you see her CV, there have been multiple awards and there have been multiple publications she has written across, and she has immense work experience and immense knowledge of the bio researchers field. So she also has a teaching experience where she has served as a lecturer for a very short stint, and she has also co-instructed a number of students. So Dr. Shiva, on that note, I would want to first and foremost thank you for taking out your valuable time and being here for our participants, and just giving them some great insights related to the topic you're covering today. Thank you, and over to you, please.
Hello, everyone. First, I want to thank iDream for doing this. I always wanted to talk to younger people to motivate you to get into research. So thanks, iDream, for giving me this opportunity. And I also want to thank my dear friend Valikanu for channeling me to iDream to do this. So without further ado, I'll get into my presentation. Yeah. Um, Okay. And thanks, Garima, for the introduction. So you have covered my basics of my journey. Um, so um, First, I'll this talk initially I'll talk about how what my background is, like how I did my journey to get into where I am now. And I'll also highlight about what other options are there, what I could have done different and still landed up here. And and also about some tips about how you can go through each stage and what I think I did was important to get me here. So first, so I come from a very small town in Tamil Nadu, and basically we don't have any big science background in my family. So it all started only after I went into school and like ninth standard, 10th standard, like something like that. So my teachers actually introduced me to this thing called inquisitive learning attitude. So what I mean by that is not just reading what's presented to you, but asking questions and reading and understanding what's in there actually. So what is presented to you might be a little different than what is in there. So if you start understanding those things, then you will naturally, there will be an interest for you in a particular subject. So you will develop an interest in some area. For example, you can get into asking more questions in physics, then you can get into physics for your undergrad. So that's how you can see where your interest lies. So for me, it was genetics and molecular biology, something related to biology. But I didn't have much knowledge about what I'm going to do. But it was just I had some interest in genetics more than anything else. So I started reading beyond my textbooks to some. Nowadays you have like Google, so you can just Google whatever you feel interesting, and you can start learning from that. And then if you do that for every different topics that you go through in your classroom, then you can naturally, you will get absorbed to something. And um, and also I also participated in so many science projects, not just science project, generally in many extracurricular activities. Why I say that is important is when we get into extracurricular activities, then we get to meet people from different areas. So I travel to Chennai or Delhi to just participate in the competition, but I also met people from different places. And then I came to know that they were actually preparing for different types of entrance examination. So then I came to know that, oh, there is these kinds of examinations that I never heard of in my school. All I know was like the board exams. So then I thought maybe I can try few of those things just to get what is there. So I asked my friends over there to, like, what, how should I prepare, like what should I do. So then I got some preparation materials and then just went through. I knew I won't like clear any of those because they were all like very high standard examination compared to my knowledge then. So then I went, but I just wanted to give it a try. So I always encourage students to just give it a try, give at least your 50% of your time to these kind of things so that you can at least know what is out there. So then I also did science projects. I hear that in India there's like a lot of encouragement now for doing so many science projects, so you get involved in as many science projects as you can. That the main thing I think is important in science project is, you are when you are explaining to public, what you're doing, then you get a full understanding of what's happening. So one more tip I would say in school is to like when you have like friends, you're reading with your friends, then you can try to explain to them. This has always been a big part of my career. Like I try to explain to everybody what's in what I'm reading, or I force them to listen to it. So then you can, like, when you understand something and you're explaining, you will definitely hit glitches there. So you, when you cannot explain something fully to somebody, then you know that there is something missing in your knowledge, then you go find out what's that, then you try to explain again more clearly to them. So if you do this, there's no need of like trying to remember things, because when you're explaining, it's already in there. So it's just a simple process of understanding things. So from there, um, I know this I was interested in biology, reading about something related to biology, and also something related to engineering, because I was more into physics and chemistry in my 12th. So I wanted to do something in a combination of physics, chemistry, and biology. And then I got into VIT. So, VIT, Vellore Institute of Technology in Vellore. And so I thought, okay, biotech was a relatively new field then. So, but I just took it. And no, none of my friends or none of the people in my society knew anything about biotech by then. In fact, I didn't know much about it then. But then it was interesting, so I took it. And then when I went to undergraduate studies, engineering, the first year is a mix of all subjects of engineering. It was really tough for me to understand what's going on, because my first year, my classmates were all like really highly intellectual people. They have gone through some kind of either through preparing to a bigger entrance examination, or some had that in their syllabus, that they knew most of what was happening in class. So the one thing that I did was really helpful was, I thought at least I should get to that level of to understand what's happening in class, so that I won't blank out in class, and I won't like know what's happening. Or if, for example, if they are teaching about protein science, I should know what is a protein and what it is made of first. So then comes the role played by the library. So that's when I should really big thanks to the VIT library. So I went there, and if there is something that's going to happen in the class the next day, in order to understand that, I would prepare myself the previous day, and I'll go through every there's like plenty of books available, so I can go through everything, get an idea of what they are going to teach the next day. So then next day I know, okay, oh, what, this is what happened. Okay, fine. Then I'll hit glitches, I don't understand something, then I go back and read. So this process went over and over again. And that, I think, is the first spark that happened to me to motivate me to do research. So I would highly encourage you to prepare for the class ahead of time. And then I also then one more thing was, now my peers are like, they already know what they are doing, and so I can easily talk to them and get myself prepared to what is the next stage. So I took the gate exam, which is like graduate aptitude test for engineering. um, the one main reason that it helped me was to understand what's the basic, what is needed for me to get into biotech career. And it was very interesting, but it took a lot of hard work, and so I had to spend a lot of hours getting through the preparation of that exam. But I wouldn't say that I was like totally into studying, even though people might call me a nerd. But I still did so many extracurricular activities, like I was into singing and went to NSS camp. So those things are important because they keep you balanced and keep you happy sometimes. And then and then I want to highlight that since this is a career thing, I want to highlight what's the difference between actually what will you do in a biotech, bioinfo, and bioengineering thing. So biotech is all about modifying organisms and doing basic research or applied research in biological systems. So in the biotech undergrad, you'll learn about biochemistry, microbiology, different things of bioprocess engineering, chemical engineering, how to apply chemical engineering in biological system, things like that. In bioinfo, it's actually about developing a system, computer-based system to help biotech research. So now it involves, like, even recently they're using machine learning to develop new antibiotics, or artificial intelligence to develop neural networks. So things about like how computer science can be used to develop biotech research. That's bioinfo. And bioengineering is actually applied, like how you use biological system to do things that helps you. So these things are the major difference, but it doesn't, the one thing I would say is it's all interconnected. You cannot like separate one area of science from other. So you cannot say, oh, I'll read only biochemistry, because it's not that only that will come into your picture. You need to know everything in order to apply your knowledge in biochemistry. So but these are all the major things, so you can choose which one you want, you are majorly interested in, and then go on from there. But I would say open your eyes to everything and learn all related fields. And then one thing that I could have done differently is there are this integrated courses for masters, like 5 years courses. So that could have been, I could have taken that. I've seen so many students do a combined course of undergraduate and masters, and then come for PhD to US. So that could have been possible. It takes only 5 years instead of 6 years in engineering. But everything has its own advantages and disadvantages. And also um, there is also like uh, different exams that they prepare for getting into masters. So not just gate, there are other exams too, so you can get into those things, try those things to get into masters. And then after all this, I got into MTech in an university. And then I also want to highlight that this time is like a really that after graduation from undergrad, there is like really this life decisions that you need to take. So for me, it was like I got selected in a campus interview for an IT company. So it was a big dilemma in my household that if I go to work now, since we had education loan and stuff like that. So should I go to work now, or should I take up more studies? And I was like so determined to go to higher studies, because I put at least for the hours I put in preparing for the exam. So I was like, I'm going to do this. But then the GATE scholarship helped me, because if we are like self sustained, then you won't be asked much questions. So and then it was also a big decision for me, so I have to think if I'm going to work or if I'm going to live with what I have and study more. So I would encourage everybody at every stage of your career to just think back, take some time and think back what you want to do, because that's really important and can change the path that you are going to take. And then in Anna University, I started doing research projects. So this one thing I want to emphasize is nowadays many students are doing actual research projects in undergraduates itself. So they come here. So when I have mentored so many students from India when I'm in MIT. so people are coming here for their final year project to US. I would highly recommend you doing that if you are going to take research as a career, because nowadays undergraduates are up to the level of doing actual research. So and there are so many students who come here for doing that. And if you want some way through, there are some scholarships also, like the Corona scholarships and different scholarship available for students to come here and do research for 6 months. So I can give you the details if somebody is really interested in that. Then uh, in my master's, that's where I got interested into real research. And actually then I had to read scientific literature, go through scientific literature. And that also nowadays students are doing it in their undergrads. Read as many research articles as you can to know what is actually research before getting into it. And then I read so many papers. Then I knew how to read scientific literature, how to use that knowledge to design experiments for myself. And then all those things happened. And then and also I also listened to, in Chennai there was like so many talks arranged, so you can, nowadays there are so many webinars. So you can go and talk, like listen to different talks from scientists, so that will encourage you, motivate you more. And I think that motivated me. Then after this I took a small diversion. So I wanted to know more about higher studies. I definitely wanted to do a PhD, but I didn't have enough resources to get into a PhD. So I also wanted to take a year off from actual preparations. So, so I went into, I did my, took up a teaching position at an engineering college. And it was fun, I should say. So that is another career option, that you can also start teaching in engineering college or different colleges to get an idea of how actual teaching is, because ultimately if you are in research you have to teach at some point. So it's better to get an idea of what that situation will be. So that's what I did. And I had to teach courses, I had to teach laboratory courses, classroom courses. I think that helped me a lot to get into uh, uh, to gain experience in teaching. And then slowly I started applying to USA. In my time I had to take this GRE examination, which is like English and mathematics, which is hard. I don't know. I don't use those English words right now. But nowadays, one point to note is that in US, about more than 100 colleges has given off GRE. They don't no longer require GRE um, uh, as an entrance thing. They purely select you based on research and what your background is, what courses you have taken, what research you have done, and how well you write your statement of purpose. That's how nowadays the selection process is going on. That's why I encourage everybody to do something in research if you're going to apply for PhD in US. And GRE is like, I think most, like more than 100 university, all the major universities given up GRE. Only very few require. And also it's a very important, like how you choose your university. So based on your research, it's good to have like very high, medium, and low ranking universities, all three things. So I think I applied to write 10 universities, and four high, three medium, and three low, so that you'll get a chance, more chance. Don't go fully to lower universities or fully to higher ranking universities. Just increase your probability of getting. And then I know because of my research was completely in industrial bioprocess in Nana University. But then I thought like maybe for doing industrial research you should have basic knowledge. So I chose some basic research courses like biochemistry and microbiology in my PhD. Then I got into university at Buffalo, um, and then the doctoral study starts. That's another 5 years, but it's fully research. Some few courses, but totally you get the freedom of getting into lab and doing whatever you want. And it's not that you have to be like really equipped with all that you need for research. In fact, I should say, when I went joined a biochemistry lab in Buffalo, I didn't know how to do basic experiments in US. So the system was all developed in India. It's completely different there, so there is a learning curve to for doing PhD, but it's totally fun. And you can, by doing careful observation how others do things, learn from them, and then you do try again and again, you get persistent working, and then you can get data from it. It's not like you have to know everything before getting into that particular field of PhD, and you can always learn from you'll have plenty of time to learn, plenty of time to think about and do experiments. And then still I also had time, and I would emphasize this, like there is a lot of work life balance necessary, and PhD gives you the time to do those balance and do the extracurricular activities. And then after I think I took like 5 years, and then graduated with a PhD. That PhD was like real time research, and that gave me, then there is no going back, right? Once you get a PhD, then you are like into research and deep into science. But it's total joy. And of course experiments will fail for me one most of the times, but then once you understand why this experiment failed, then you are happy about it actually, and then you don't do it again, that's all. So it's more fun. Then I got a postdoctoral position at MIT. And MIT, there is like, you just have to imagine what you want to do, and there is all the resources already in place. You just have to talk to the correct people and ask them suggestions, and then you can do whatever research you want. I think that's what I like. And then I have a kid now, so it's again like work life balance. So I get time to do. And it's not, and the why I'm saying this is, it's not like usually people imagine scientists as like those who have this big white hair and think so much and isolated, they are not, don't have any social life, and have to spend so many hours. So it's not like that. It's a fun thing. We also have a social life, and it's like just a regular job, but you get to do what you want to do, that's all. Then so why I think I like science so much is it's like keeps you awake all the time, like you are like having fun with doing, oh, why didn't this experiment work, so why I'm doing this. So it kindles the interest all the time, so you're not bored at all. And there's always new things to learn and new things to incorporate into yours, so it's evolving field, so you have to like keep updated. But there is this satisfaction there that you are doing what you want to do. And then also there's one thing that if you are designing an experiment or doing something in the lab, then that's, you are the only person who knows about it. So that joy that hey, I'm doing something new, I'm discovering something new, nobody has done this ever. So that purpose fills you with happiness. And then also yeah, most of the time I'm happy, not because my experiments worked, but when I find that why my experiment failed, that's when I'm really happy. So that gives like a kind of calmness to you and happiness in knowing something new. And like I said, it's just persistence and hard work. That's it. You have to be like firm in what you determine to do. That's all is needed for doing science. And also I would say that since it's a bio now, there is corona, and so many health related questions that you have, even like in your family, you might come want to know more about a certain disease or something like that. Then it's always good to know something in science, instead of like, where then you can do your research and understand at least what's happening, to take informed decision in your own health, and explaining it to your family, so that it's also like taking care of yourself and knowing more about yourself when you are doing science. That's what like most of the time in this corona lockdown, what I have done is explaining to others like what are myths, what are wrong, how this virus works, things like that, so you get knowledge about those two. um, so yeah, so that's about it. And then I'll give you a very quick overview of what are all the science careers out there. It's not just research career that's there. Of course, I took research, but there are so many other options out there when you have a science background. So one is like first is research and teaching faculty. That's what I'm aiming to get into. But there is also pure teaching faculty, like where you do 70% of research and 30% of your time doing some teaching and stuff. So that's pure teaching faculty. And then the one point is these are all careers that are available here in US and also in India. But I know more about, you can ask me questions about more about these careers in US. And there is also industry jobs. Of course, there are plenty. I live in Boston. There is like every corner has a biotech industry, and there is like plenty of biotech jobs available for MS. People who have done MS, people who have done PhD, people who have done postdoc. There is jobs available for every stage in your life. So you can, once if you feel research is not your thing, once you get into MS, you can still go to industry jobs also. So there is an option of going there anytime you want. And then there's also science administration and science policy, where there are certain courses here that you know about how to administer science, and then you inform the government about how do you take science policy. So those are science advisor jobs. And also there is different patent law things that you can get into. And also where you can actually practice writing a patent, and actually implementing a different science patent in the court. So that's also a very interesting career option. And there is also science journalism, where the thing is, it's not just writing about what science has happening in the lab. There is a big career option of being in the editorial board of science journals like Nature, Science Cell. So many journals are there. So for the editorial you board, they choose members who are a PhD or a postdoc, and then those editors get to choose what papers. They get to read about all the literature that's there and choose papers, or decide where to accept the papers that are written by scientists into their journal or not. So that's also a really cool job that's available there. So yeah, I'll stop here, Garima, and then I can take questions. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Shiva.
Mhm.
All right, so I'll start with a few questions that have already come up to me on the chat box. Uh,
Mhm.
to start with, we already have our own team members as well asking a few questions. So
Mhm.
I'll start each of them one by one. So
Mhm.
Ms. Parmita Sharma, she's a counselor with ITC. She says that during your master's, did you do a thesis project which could be extended to a PhD? And for PhD, is there any mandatory prerequisite like a coursework or a lab introduction kind of class?
Yeah. So for the first question, no, I did not do a, a core project that I can be extended. So because I did a PhD over here, but one could always do that. I see people coming for masters here in the US, and they join a lab, they do the master's project, and then extend it after 1 year or so. They can extend it to PhD. That option is there available here in US. So you come here for a master's or MA in biochemistry and then continue as a PhD. But I obviously did not do that. But that's a very good point. You save 1 year of your PhD there, so that's a good thing. And then what was the second question about? Prerequisite. No, there's no prerequisite for any. You just finish whatever courses you can. But one prerequisite nowadays is because of this GRE is not there. One prerequisite is you have to do some kind of research if you want to get into PhD in US, because they select you purely based on your research and how well you explain your research. So that's very important to have some kind of exposure to real research project. You don't have to need to have like a publication. Having a publication is really good, but at least you should have tried your effort to do some research or part of a big group and do your own part in that particular project. That's very important.
Okay, all right. So coming to the next question, so that's again from one of our team members. So John, which I think you've already interacted with him
Mhm.
before. So he would actually want to know, what chapters in life sciences actually, or even chemistry for that matter, did you enjoy the most in school?
School, zoology, mainly dealing with botany and zoology, but where they focus on genetics and Mendelian genetics, things like that. But I should not say that I didn't like physics and chemistry, because I really enjoyed physics, chemistry, and biology. It's not like it's not like one particular thing, but maybe I didn't like mathematics that much.
Okay, okay. And what do you think, how long does it actually take to complete a PhD in science? Is it true that in India takes a lot of a longer time as compared to abroad? And if you could compare the two, that why is it so?
Yeah, I think I think it's more or less the same. 6 years, 5 to 6 years is the norm in US. But the point to be noted is in European countries, where if you do doing a PhD in European countries, it just take 3 years or so. But in US, the process is 6 years. I've seen many people do 6 to 7 years. And in India, I think it's again the same. I've seen students with 6 to 7 years. So I don't think that's a very big difference in time of doing. It's all that matters is how many publication or how many good publication we have in that time. That's more important, because that's going to, and how well you learn to do research, because that's going to come with you forever. So I think that's more important than the length of time. But I think in European countries it's much shorter. If you want to do a really short one, then there is options.
Okay. Um, all right. So coming to the next question, we have Mr. Christopher. So he would want to, he would want to know the work of any of your projects, something which you found it really interesting in your project work.
Okay. Yeah, there are plenty, but I would say I'll tell some cool things that I find myself found in the lab. So one of the projects was I want to know how the iron, the metal iron, how it gets into bacteria. So I was doing some experiments, molecular biological experiments, and then the aim of that experiment was to find out what to grow cells that actually can take up iron. But then in my during when I was doing the experiment, I found a few of the bacteria that did not grow at all. So I was very confused and surprised. But then I really wanted to pursue those things that did not grow, and that led me to publication. So that was like a joyous moment. And also right now, I just took I was purifying a protein, and then I found the protein to be colored. So normally people would have proceeded, but I thought, why is this color? And then that led me to that is leading me to a very big project now. So those are like things that project. But my main focus on PhD was to understand how iron metabolism, like the metal iron, how it is important and what it is doing to rhizobial bacteria, like soil bacteria that's found in soil, and how that helps soybean to grow. That's my PhD project. And right now I'm working on antimicrobial peptides. So peptides that are used to kill bacteria and their mechanism of action.
Very interesting, in fact. All
Yeah,
right.
thank
So
you.
I'll come to the next question.
Mhm.
So Gail, he says, could you explain the role of medical coders in sciences?
Uh, you mean uh, people who do informatics,
Yes,
codings
from yes,
for?
yes, from the role of
Yes, yeah. There is plenty of opportunity for writing coders in biology. So, like I said, there is this whole new field of machine learning, which is like coming up to discover new antibiotics, to discover new therapies, and also informatics is needed for artificial intelligence and reading, predicting how neural network works, and they have to write codes for that. And every simple things that we do, like even now I'm trying to learn some computer languages in order to fit that into my research, because some basic things, how to convert, how to analyze my data from an RNA-seq experiment where there is like a lot of data set that is available, but I don't know how to look into them. So I need somebody to write a program to analyze that group, what genes are there, what genes are not there, just to get an idea of what to do. So I need some programmers to do that. So that there's always an opportunity for coding there, which I wish I learned more.
Okay, so the next question, Dr. Shiva, comes from an academic point of view. So,
Mhm.
how do you think is how much important is writing a journal or maybe getting it published for people who want to stay in the academia domain?
Oh, it's the most important thing. So it's at least write a review when you are an undergraduate, and then review an article in the journal, and then or some simple research in a basic journal, and then writing will show your interest. So, and also it gives you an science writing is very important in research, because we have to then you think coherently in order to write a paper. Doing an experiment is different, but writing that is a totally different thing. So you learn how to tell a story, how to tell your project like a story in a paper. So every experiment has to have a purpose, and why you did it, what are the results. So those things. So writing is helps you trains your mind to think really well. So, and also if you see points wise, then publications talk who you are. So you have to have publications in as many as you can. But one thing I would recommend is do publish in a really good in peer reviewed journals, so that they are recognized. Sometimes if you might think it is like easy to get your reviews out, but put in hard work and do it in a good journal, so that that speaks for you.
Okay, I think that's a very valuable tip.
Hmm.
Okay, so coming to the next question, Shubha basically wants to know: do you think there is a scope in the biotech industry in India? I mean, if you compare it perhaps to where you are or any other place apart from India.
There is a lot of new industries there. Even I've seen postdocs from here who are my colleagues go back to India and join industry. So there is a lot of new industries, and India is a leader in vaccine production, in research. So even if you want to say industry oriented research is very high in India. And so there are so many startups, so many research jobs, sorry, industry jobs there now. So it is I of course I would say, if you want me to compare, for example, here in Boston, I would say there's of course too many, there's so many industries, but that it's India is not up to that level in number of industries and number of research jobs. But still there is more options in India now.
Okay, okay. Coming to the next question, we have Suganya, who's uh, asked a question that what do you suggest for school children, that what should they be pursuing during their school days to improve their profile to get into biosciences? Are there any internships which you can suggest for these school students to undergo?
Yeah. There are one thing I would say is very basic thing is trying to understand science. That will always help you. Do not omit anything related to science, and understand that. And then there are plenty of science project that is available. So there are competitions, exhibitions, science exhibitions, and so many these things where you exhibit what you do in school level. And there is also this national science congress where you take it to a national level. So and there is even government funding for that, I hear that. So that's, so involve in as many science projects. Like I said, that will help you understand the science to the public. And what other, excuse me, uh, that's one thing. Mm, yeah, and also for school level, yeah, and also take understand the different process of entrance examination, and read that. And then I think nowadays colleges are accepting internship for school students as well.
Okay, so maybe no worries. You can take a water break. That's absolutely fine. I'll throw some questions in the meantime. Uh,
Yeah, you can ask me now. I think I'm okay.
that's absolutely fine. So,
Mhm.
just mentioning to all the viewers there. We are getting your questions put across to the speaker here. So anything that you would have, just mention it on the YouTube chat box, and our team moderating the chat will put it up across for you to get it answered. Dr. Shiva, coming to the next question, are there any scholarships that get offered during the courses that maybe at your own university or others that you may know of?
Yes. Especially to India, if you are an undergraduate and if you want to do research, like actual research, there is a something called a Corona scholarship, which you can apply. And there are many other scholarships. Just look for it, that Indian government gives for you to go abroad and do a 6 month project, or a summer project. So just look for it. There's one thing I know is the Corona scholarship. That's for undergraduate. And also now I see that some masters are applying for that too. So that's a good one. And also there are so many other Indian government sponsored scholarship that you can get into. I don't think MIT or universities here will give scholarship for other country people to come here and do small projects. They do offer scholarships for like part of your PhD. So if you are from India, you can come here and do PhD for, and they and the government will US government will give you money for some years, and then you have to go back to India to finish your PhD. So those things are there. For summer and short-term projects, you can see Indian government websites to get small funding. You come here and do research. What MIT is giving is the space for you to, and space, and under it will put you under a faculty member, and they will take mentor you for your project. So those things are there.
Okay. So the next question comes from Gayatri. What science courses or fields do you think are the ones that shall be in demand in the next coming 10 to 15 years?
Um, okay, one more thing about the previous question that I forgot is you can always write to professors here. Some of them, like I wouldn't say they will reply to you immediately, but always networking is important in science. So you have to keep in touch with the professors over here, tell about you, what you have done. If you are like in an undergraduate, you want to come here and do, some professors may have individual money to get you here to do some research. And if you get an approval from a researcher here, then you can get funding from India or your university to come here and do research. So that's there too. So keep emailing professors about your profile. And then coming to next 10 years, um, fields that are so there are some fields that are always hot. They so for example, biochemistry. Everywhere you go, there will be some kind of biochemistry research. So for example, a cancer biologist will have to do some biochemistry. Microbiologist has to do some biochemistry. Neurologist, neurobiologist has to do some biochemistry. So those core things is gonna be hot for forever. And also chemistry, just basic chemistry, that's also gonna be there forever. So those are like always hot fields. Other than that, so basic, but those are all like very basic things. Other than that, hot fields, I think now since there is this pandemic, there will be some antiviral research that's gonna be, so microbiology, phage biology, cancer biology is also most funded in US. And also Alzheimer's is also one that is or neuropsychology research. That's also that one that is funded more. um, but I would say um, anything that, or vaccine biology, that's also getting popular due to the pandemic. But I would say there is scope for every field as long as you are into it, because you never know what's gonna happen. Sometimes it, like this pandemic came and viral research become hot. So it's good to uh, s- um have do some advanced research and also have your basics strong, so that you can evolve into different wherever you want to go later when the situation arises.
Okay. So, coming to the next question, Dr. Shiva, that's again from one of our team members, is that what is the role of machine learning in the biotech and medicine? And do you really think machine learning will be able to expedite the research in vaccine?
Yes, yes. So I can even refer to a newest example. So in MIT, a group of researchers used machine learning to develop, design a new antibiotic. That's that antibiotic was there already, but nobody was using it properly um, to antimicrobe, like to kill bacteria in different species. So these, it was a purely machine learning based approach. And and that was a really cool thing that machine learning can do. But it's not just antibiotics. It can develop new, you can develop new vaccines, anything that's related to training and then getting an output. For example, even machine learning is used to predict how protein folds. And so anything that is related to protein can be applied there. So how a long amino acid chain, how it folds into protein, that can be predicted based on machine learning. And also new vaccines, anything that's, so it's a really important emerging field that is coming up, related to proteins, vaccine, antibiotics, chemical inhibitors. So that's another thing that machine learning is coming. So you can design inhibitors to various proteins or various chemical entities in the cell, and you can do develop new inhibitors purely based on machine learning. That's also being done to stop cancer, division, cell division, things like that. So it's a good new field. It's very, very important.
Okay, so we have just two more questions, Dr. Shiva, before we perhaps
Go
come to
ahead.
the end of this question. So Shivangi, she mentions and she asks you that can you suggest some good universities apart from the Ivy League ones?
Oh, there are many. Actually, I'm not very which is Ivy League, but there are so many. John Hopkins, Princeton. There's so many universities in the East Coast and the West Coast, like University of California, University of San Francisco. Those are all really good. And here in, if you see region by region, then in Boston, of course, there's so many. Northeastern, Boston University, uh, MIT, Harvard, of course, there. But there are so many universities here. And then in the central region, there is like University of Chicago and Michigan. Those are all really good. And if you see in the south, then there is Texas. University of Texas is good. North Carolina. Um, think I mentioned John Hopkins. Those are all really good. Apart from it, it's not necessary that Ivy, you should join Ivy Leagues. There are so many other universities, and also the one that I did my PhD was a very small university. Like University at Buffalo was not a very big thing. It's belongs to the state, but what I think is more important is if they will fund you. So you have to have a good source of funding in order to finish your PhD. So what I chose was based on who gave me full scholarship for all 6 years. So and also, it's a university choosing is a big thing. So if you choose it, and then here the system is, you have to go to rotations. So you have to go to a lab for like 2 months, sample the lab, and then you can do 3 rotations or 4 rotations to sample 4 different labs, and then you can choose what you want to do. It's not just the university, but it's also the lab is important where you go, and that you have plenty of time to choose after coming here. So uh, it's important to choose the university, but it's more important to choose the lab.
Okay, so I think perhaps that brings us to the end of the questions we have
Hmm.
from the users. So maybe if Dr. Shiva, if you permit, we will go ahead and share your email ID
Oh,
with
sure.
in the chat box. Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, sure.
All right. So
I'm
if
always there, so you can email me, and I think it's important for me to do something to encourage others to get into research. So please share my idea, and I can help with giving whatever I know.
Great, great. Thank you so much for that. And for everybody else who's there in the chat box, maybe if you still have any questions which are unanswered, we would request you to either write back to the iDream Career team, or you can directly, write an email to Dr. Shiva, and you can definitely get your queries answered, please. So, on that note, Dr. Shiva, thank you so very much. I think it's been a great, insightful session. I mean, with your journey, you've given us some great ways and great, opportunities which lie in the biosciences research domain. So, thank you so much
Thank
for
you, thank you, thank you so much for giving this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. And for everybody else who's watching us right now, please stay tuned for other webinars which are planned. The next one coming on the Monday, which is the 18th of May at 5 o'clock. So this time we have a radio jockey joining us, RJ Prithvi. So he comes from 104 FM at Bangalore, and he would be talking about various career options as an RJ. So stay tuned for more and see you soon, everybody. Thank you.